What should we be swift to hear? Well, we should be swift to hear the word. We should be slow to speak, and we should be slow to wrath. Therefore, in some things we should be quick or swift, and in some things we should be slow. Why should a man be slow to speak? Well, because once you say words or release words, you can't take them back. Those words are out there. And those words that you speak will take on a life of their own. They will produce death or life. Death and life is in the power of your tongue or in the words that you speak. So once you release words, you can't take those words back, even though you can apologize over and over and over and over and over again. Therefore, people need to give thought to the words they are about to speak before they speak. And then take into consideration the impact of the words in the ears of those who hear them. When you speak, do you know what people hear? Now, I'll be the first to tell you, I've heard things people didn't say. And I have to ask for clarification. If I don't ask for clarification, I'll run off with the wrong understanding. And people don't always hear what you say. You say one thing and they heard something else. They said, what? I never said that. And this is why oftentimes with certain people it's good to have witnesses so that every word can be established. Are you with me? And so people, and I told my wife something several years ago, and she was in a conversation and remembered it. But I remember in the church I was in where it dawned on me that by the time words leave your mouth and reach the ear of a person, your words, your sound has gone through space. And the prince of the power of the air has a way of perverting sounds so that by the time the words leave your lips to the time they get to the ear of that person, there's lots of opportunity for manipulation and perversion of the words that you have spoken. The other thing you have to understand is that when you come from a particular culture, there's certain things you say that people in your culture would understand, but people in another culture interpret what you say very, very differently. Are you with me? And so because of their ability or their cultural interpretation of what you've said from your cultural experiences, if the cultures clash and they have different meanings in different cultures, this is why slang, when people start texting, R, it's like R-A-R-E now is R. While U is U. OK becomes K. And you got people who, once they get into that realm, they start making up words with the expectation that you fully understand what they are saying. And it's like, really? You don't even know what you're saying. But this is what happens with people. So when you speak, it's important. This is why I believe James is saying you have to be slow to speak, meaning you have to think and ponder the words and choose the words carefully to respond to a person, to make sure that you have found the best word, the right word to communicate what it is you want to say. Because you got to understand something, folks. If you say something and somebody get the wrong understanding, the question is whose fault is that? Because if they got the wrong understanding, you really didn't know who you were talking to, and you were using words that obviously they didn't understand or mistook what you were saying. Now, at the risk of talking to someone as if they are illiterate or, still in kindergarten or, may not necessarily have the level of articulation or intelligence that you may have, and these are not designed to be derogatory. I'm not trying to be derogatory, but think about the fact how many times you've tried to communicate and what you've said has been misunderstood. So that means that you have to learn a better means of communication. You have to, and this is one of the reasons why texting is so dangerous. Texting and emailing, you email and you can easily be misunderstood. Because people not only hear with their culture, but they hear with their emotions already emotionally. So if a person is in an emotional state and you're saying something, they're going to interpret from the state of emotion that they're in. So you could say something today and say that same thing next week, and they hear two different things. Same person, same words, exact phrases, because they're interpreting from their emotions, which is why you have to know the emotional state of the person you're communicating with, which is difficult to determine when you're texting somebody in another city, in another location. They could even be sitting right next to you. What? Anyway, you have to take into consideration the impact your words will have on a person.
For more information, visit www.arthurbaileyministries.com or call 888-899-1479. This program is made possible through financial contributions from viewers like you. Thank you.